Hey guys, Okami Gaming here, coming at you with a Fi deck tech video of what I've been practicing for Nationals and what I think is good in Fi right now. I feel like the deck is very refined and we're finding very good playstyles for him and where to be going with him. And I just wanted to give my gist because I feel like I've been evolving this deck day by day and I've been really liking the list. I've been putting up some results with it, and it's just a ton of fun to play. Very competitive. Thinking this is going to be close to the list I might bring to Nats, which, if any of you are going to Nats, could be fun to see you there. But yeah, let's get into it. So, I've evolved this deck into a Kodachi build. I think Kodachis are very, very useful because they push those awkward points for massive momentum triggers that we really want to be pushing every turn versus running Emberblade, which we do still have Emberblade in Sideboard, which we'll get into that. But the Kodachis are just super strong. They essentially make it so you attack 6 times a turn pretty consistently. Obviously, sometimes you'll have a couple dead hands here and there, but that happens with any deck. But your average turn, you'll have Kodachis and a couple attacks, and you'll be threatening mass trigger about 2 times in that turn on average, which helps a lot because it means your opponent has to block twice a turn, or you're going to get a free card. So for equipment, yep, we got our Kodachis, our massive momentum. That hasn't changed at all. Very strong headpiece is the main headpiece you'll be running. And then we got our Shukos. It's just the best arm piece, especially because of Stubby Hammers being banned. There's no other arm piece that's better. Shukos is just the best, and there's a lot of synergies in this deck for Shuko, that's for sure. And then we got Type Flippers. We're not running Snapdragons because, as you can see in this list, our only Snapdragons targets are essentially Salt the Wound and Lava Burst, because everything else should have Go Again. You might have random times where Lava Vein doesn't have Go Again, or Blaze Headlong, but usually you don't want to waste snaps on them. But because these are both base 2 power attacks, Tide Flippers is just better because it has Arcane Barrier 1. And that's the only reason we're running it instead of Snapdragons. It's just better for this build because we're not running like Snatches. If you want to run Snatches, I recommend running Snapdragons because it helps with Snatch triggers. And I believe that's the only one. Oh yeah, if you're running like a Breaking Point build, which I am considering putting that card back in, but I'm struggling to find a good spot for it. I think having the CNCs and Sideboard are good enough. But if you're running more of like a Rupture build and running Breaking Points, I recommend you run Snapdragons. But for this specific build, Type Flippers is just better. And then in the main board, we're running Fyendal Spring Tunic, which Tunic, just an amazing card. I feel like most of us know what it does and what it can do. It gives us that extra Art of War turn, that extra resource for a Mounting Anger turn with 3 reds in hand. It's just super good, super, super strong, good with Spreading Flames. There's really no replacement for Tunic. You can run Blossomous Springs, but you only get to use that once a game, and it's not an instant speed effect like Tunic. It's just not nearly as good. But yeah, that's the main deck equipment. For equipment in the sideboard, we're running Flamescale Furnace for decks like Bravo. I actually don't like it in the mirror. It's really honestly mostly just for Bravo, Oldhim, where you're going to need to block like just a crush hit turn. It really helps you. Furnace plus like Shuko and a card from hand, even if it's a 2-block card, can stop a Spinal Crush on hit effect and save you an entire turn. So Furnace is very, very necessary for those Guardian matchups. And yeah, I don't really bring it in against anybody else. There's an argument to bring it in against Prism, but I found that Tunic is usually a little bit better against Prism because you still have Shukos and Mask Momentum to block Erudition turns, and you also have Poppers that you bring in. So I don't think you bring in Flamescale Furnace for that extra block against it. I think you're fine. You're usually keeping enough pressure that you don't mind it too much. But I could see arguments if you know they're going full heralds and they're not an aura prism player, then I would say run furnace. But most of the time they're still running a few auras with some heralds, so I would run furnace, only against the guardians. And then Emberblade, I really only bring in Emberblade against, again, Guardians. I bring it in against Guardians, and I bring it against, I bring it in against Oldhim, because it's just better against Oldhim than Kodachis. Kodachis are very tough to play around Oldhim with Crown of Seeds and his Earth React. Emberblade forces a different kind of block out of him. And it's very good against the Prism matchup, because Kodachis don't do a lot for you against Prism, because she can make Spectral Shields and just completely block your Kodachi. So Emberblade just pushes that extra damage that gets you those on hits that you need. And then Nullrune Gloves. These pretty much are just coming against any wizard you play against. You only bring them in against Icelander and Kano, because it's your only extra Nullrune besides Tide Flippers. And it's just very powerful. Very, very helpful, because if you get into a point where you're not having super aggressive hands and you need to deal with some arcane damage, you're gonna really need that AB2. Alright, so let's get back into the main deck. And something to note, without equipment, I'm running 53 card main deck, so then we can side in cards from the sideboard. So let's go over what's in the main deck first. We got our kill cards. We got 3 Lava Bursts and 3 Salt the Wounds as our like end of the chain attacks. Salt the Wound, very powerful. Just if we get that, because Kodachis with Salt the Wound is very good, because if they take the first 2 Kodachis, that's already a 0 for 4, which is awesome, just off of the weapons. It's not including any of the attacks that are coming at them. On average, it's going to be a 0 for 6 or 5 or more. Like, I've had Assault the Wound for 10 before, which was insane. But yeah, just your basic kill cards, 0 for 5, on average 0 for 5 or higher. And then we got our starters. We've got Double Strikes, which can be a good starter sometimes. We got our Brand with Cinder Claws. We're running all 9 because of Kodachis, because it can make Kodachis Draconic to push that extra Draconic chain link that we don't have because of Emberblade being in the sideboard. So that helps a lot when you sequence it with Kodachis. Like, it's especially powerful if you lead with a Spreading Flames, and then you play like a Brand with Cinderclaw, and then you can Kodachi, and the Kodachi will get +1 from the Spreading Flames, which is really nice. But yeah, so for starters, we got that, Double Strike, Mounting Anger, super powerful card. We got our Lava Vein Loyalties, our Rising Resentments, running Renegade, and our Spreading Flames. Just very basic starters. They just get that chain link going for big turns. Cards like Spreading Flames and Mounting Anger really start really big turns and are just very nice. And then we got our couple big cards. I consider Rise from the Ashes a big card. It is very, very strong. One of my favorite things to do with this deck is I'll play a Rise from the Ashes, and then I'll Kodachi. If they don't block the second Kodachi, your next attack is going to be a mass trigger with Rise from the Ashes. So it could be a draw trigger from like a Mounting Anger for a 1 for 7 go again because of Rise from the Ashes, and that's super hard to block and deal with. They usually have to commit 3 cards, you're getting that draw trigger. If they don't block the Kodachi. Obviously, if they block the Kodachi, then they still have a 7 attack coming at them and more things. It's just super, super powerful. Really makes them have to do awkward blocks while you push a lot of damage. And then Blaze Headlongs, another just powerful card. It's just 0 for 4 go again, which is awesome. We love 0 cost go agains that do damage. Very, very solid card. And then we're running 3 Art of Wars. If you don't have Art of Wars, I will say Uprising can fit this slot. I don't like Uprising very much because it's just not as powerful, but I know Art of Wars are hard to come by nowadays, but for maximum efficiency, you need Art of Wars for this deck. It is an insanely strong card. You can Tunic Art of War for a 5-card hand, and if those 5 cards are like Blaze Headlong, Double Strike, Lava Vein, with like a Rising Resentment, and just any other red card. It's everything's coming in for a break point essentially, and you're probably gonna get a mask trigger to draw, maybe get a Salt of the Wound in the mix there, maybe a Lava Burst. It's just an insane turn that happens. Card's just insanely strong. There's really no replacement. Uprising can do some decent damage, but Art of War fixes your hands and does decent damage. It's just insane. Alright, and then for because we're running Kodachis, we're running stuff like Soul Bead Strike. It's just a good blue that blocks for 3. That's a 0 cost for Kodachis. All of our blues are 0 costs. So I know like Cinderskin is a very good blue to run in this deck because it blocks 3. But we can't really run it because we're running Kodachis. So we do have to sacrifice that a little bit. So we're running like Rising Resentments as a blue. But it really hasn't affected me that much. The Rising Resentment blues are still useful once in a while. The main one that got cut was blue Ronin Renegades. I think Soul Beat Strike is just better than Ronin Renegade blue because this blocks for 3 and it comes in for 2 instead of 1. So it just is a better card. Soul Beat is super strong with Kodachi build. But yeah, that's our main deck. So just classic 5 game plan. We're just trying to do as much damage as we can. We have a few 3 blocks thrown in the mix, so then we can do some blocking and do some block trades. And yeah, I've been loving this main deck. The only time anything ever comes out is when we're putting in the Belittle Minnowism package. We take out 2 Rising Resentment blues. Besides that, nothing ever gets taken out. The list stays as is. I designed it that way for a specific reason, just to keep it consistent. So yeah, let's get into the sideboard. So every game, we need to bring in at least 7 cards because we're running 53 main deck. And that's including the Phoenix Flame. 52 without Phoenix Flame. But that starts in your yard. But we always want to keep it close to that. Certain matchups we don't mind going over in deck size. But we have to bring in at least 7 cards. So for our aggro matchups, or matchups where we don't need the Belittle Minnowism and the Command and Conquers or Erase Faces, I'm just always going to be bringing in 2 Phoenix Flames, 3 Flame Call Awakening, and 2 Tomes. This is just a very solid Draconic package just to push those Draconic Chain Links for really big turns, and then we got Tomes to extend those turns. When you Art of War into a Flame Call Awakening, Phoenix Flame, do a Tome, it's just, your turn is huge. You easily push 30 plus damage, which not a lot of heroes can block out 30 damage last I checked, so I think that's pretty solid. It's very, very powerful. I mostly bring in this package, most of my matchups, but I'll go over specific matchups that these come in. The specific matchups that these come in, these usually don't come in. So we got CNCs and Erase Faces. These are essentially just very efficient cards, but they come in every they come in against Prism every time. So against Prism, we usually bring in all 6 poppers, and then I'll also bring in the Belittle Minnowism package, and I'll just go 2 cards over because I take out the Blue Rising Resentments, 2 of them. Reason being is Belittle helps us be able to pay for the CNC and the Erase Face better, and CNC and Erase, like if I decide to attack with them, it helps pay them a little bit better. Because they can still be offensive. Erase Face turns off Prism's entire turn, which is huge. So usually you're going to be attacking with Erase Face, but Command and Conquer and Erase Face for poppers on Eruditions, Herald of Protections, just anything that's threatening. Very, very important to have, because if they get you too low, it's going to be tough for you to come back. But for other matchups, I always like to bring in Erase Face against ice decks, because if they play a Channel Lake Frigid and you attack them for Erase Face, they might have to block with enough cards that they can't really pitch an ice card to do anything. Especially if you use it at the end of your Chain Link. Like if they have Channel out and you're able to play an attack or 2 and then still Erase Face, which doesn't always happen. Channel Lake's kind of hard to play around. But if you do have the hand, it's really nice. But if they take the erase face, they can't pitch. Like, they can still pitch, but the cards in pitch won't be ice cards. So their Channel Lake Frigid will go away next turn, and it's a very big play against those decks. So like Icelander, Oldhim, Lexi, these always come in. And then for Ice Heroes as well, Icelander, Oldhim, and Lexi, I always bring in Belittle and Minnowism package, because you just need that for the extra blues to be able to play cards around their ice effects. And then for Rangers, I'll bring in Command and Conquers because they're really good against their arsenals. Helps out tremendously. And then I'll also bring in Command and Conquer sometimes against decks that I think will be setting up a little bit. Like, I like Command and Conquer against Briars, Viscerize, other big decks. Like, I do like them a little bit against Dromai, because sometimes Dromai will be setting up dragons down there, but Dromai is usually not a matchup that you really have to worry too much. Usually you're too aggressive for her, but it doesn't hurt to have some poppers just in case. And also, getting rid of their arsenal can hurt them a lot. It's also really good against brutes. Makes them have to block, or they lose maybe a Blood Rush Bellow. Just a very, very good card. Anybody who's been around for a while, Command and Conquer is just a must-have in like most decks. It just shuts off a lot of shenanigans people try to do. But obviously it's not very budget friendly, so it's very understandable if you replace it with something else. But yeah, so for the sideboard, really, besides those specific matchups I just talked about, this is essentially just what you're always going to be bringing in. And like I said, Searing Emberblade just comes in against Prism and Oldhim. Every other deck I like Kodachis. Kodachis are very good. But yeah, so that's my new list. This is what I've been messing around with a lot. I've been having tons of fun playing it, and I think it is very, very strong. And this is just what I've been testing for Nationals. So I do actually think this will have a shot out at Nats. If you're playing in any Callings or Battle Hardens, or if you're even going to Nats, I think this is a list to be looking at, because I think you'll be seeing lists possibly similar to this, or maybe not, but it's something to look out for. But in other news, I do plan on getting some gameplay out on my channel here soon. I'm possibly going to be playing some TTS games, and I'm going to try to get a little thing set up so I can do some in-person games, record them, and be able to share some gameplay with you guys, because I think that'd be lots of fun. Lots of fun to share some gameplay with everybody. But thanks for watching. This is my updated list. I'll put a link in the description so you can come check out the list. It'll be public on FabDB. And if you have any questions about the list, anything at all, please leave a comment and I'll respond to it. But besides that, thanks, and everybody have a wonderful day. Peace.